The way I run my business is I don't actually focus on anything to do with actually making a sale. The most important thing to me is actually the relationship that I have between me and my clients. Now, in saying that, the biggest thing for me is you have to have a really good importance of understanding both the client circumstances and what I can do for you. Now, if that doesn't match up, that's okay. But if it does match up, I think we're probably a very good fit. Now, the thing I understand is that everyone's different. Now, in saying that, what I mean by that is that someone who earns $300,000 a year should not invest the same as someone that earns $100,000 a year or someone that earns $70,000 a year. You have very different abilities to buy, you have very different serviceability, and you also probably have very different risk profiles and tolerance. A bigger part to that too is also the time horizon and risk appetite that you actually have. Now, furthermore to that, those aren't the only things that are important, but actually the other two things that I'd say are really important that come in here is that I will only purchase houses and no units. Now, this is an extract from a really good report that I like. So it's the Aussie Home Loans 25-year report, which clearly shows houses outperforming units. And if you want to look on the basically bottom to bottom right-hand side, you'll see in basically every city of the country, houses have outperformed units by quite a country mile. So that's my reason. And I don't think there's any arguments there. Now, furthermore to that, look, importantly in buying properties, I have a very strong focus on sustainable portfolio growth. Now, let me tell you something. What I mean by that is it's both net yield and net growth are your most important things. Now, you'll see that, look, I put a quote down there saying that you're buying a property to make money, to have convenience of access, and to bolster your future, not to save on tax. Now, what I mean by that is if you're an investor, you're literally buying it to make money. Nothing else should matter but what your actual net amount that you make is over the long term. Now, I'm a strong believer that if you're buying a property, you should have the intention of holding it forever, if not at least 10 years. So it really is a long-term asset that you should think about over a very long course of time. Now, what do I mean by net yield? Now, what I mean is you'll see all these other people saying, oh, I bought a property that's 6.5% yield in North Queensland, for example. But what they're leaving out is, first things first, you'll find the council rates are very expensive there. Now, if you're only getting $400 a week in rent and you're getting $3,800 in literally council bills a year, which is realistic for that area, if not more, then that's shrinking your yield quite a lot. Now, if you're then having to pay insurance, and that being both either building or building and landlord insurance, in your southern states, you're generally spending anywhere from about $1,200 to about $1,800. Let's call it at about a $300,000 price point. Now, in North Queensland, that would be about $4,000 to give everyone an idea. So that's even making it worse. Now, furthermore, too, in your southern states, your actual landlord managing agents fee is generally somewhere around the 4 to about 8%. Now, in North Queensland, for this example's sake, it's generally somewhere around the 10 to 15%. So that's even shrinking your yield more. So your net yield actually for something that might be 6.5% will probably be even to something in an eastern state that might even be towards your lower 4 percentage point mark, just simply because the amount you're spending on it. Now, furthermore to this, your net growth is most important. Now, what's your net growth? It's your actual increase in price over time that from your purchase price. It's just a capital growth that's happened over the course of time. Now, if you ever go to sell, who cares about paying tax? If you're making a lot of money, who cares about paying tax? That's the thing. It's okay to pay tax if you've made a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, much aside from a lot of your other people that will say, just, oh, buy this for tax purposes, buy this for this, buy this for that. Now, why would you make a financial institution to save money? You're making an investment to make money. So really simple there, but I think you get the gist of it. Lastly, this adds on to this further. Now, I will not touch house and land packages. Now, look, the funny thing about this is that I've actually been offered quite a lot of money from some developers in multiple states. So I've actually been offered, in one circumstance, $44,000 to sell house and land packages. Now, thing about me is I can't be bought. I will only buy things that actually benefit my clients. Now, I have never bought a house and land package, heard nightmare stories, are just a complete disaster, and here's some of the reasons. Now, you've got poor building quality, number one. Some of these are just built with ridiculously poor terracotta tiles, particularly ridiculously poor wood. You look at the age lines on the wood, it's just an absolute joke. Seriously. Land components are a disgrace. I don't know if people like living in backyards, they're surely not it. I've seen backyards under, not backyards, sorry, blocks actually, which is even more ridiculous, under 280 meters squared now. So what are you going to do with that? And furthermore, there's no differentiation between your actual property and others. They look exactly the same. So what's going to differentiate your property in the future from another, let's say, estate that's nearby? If you're buying one estate that's built and you're buying a new 4x2 house and land package, and let's say in 5 years you want to sell and a suburb 2 minutes away has just been built, but it's brand new, what's going to differentiate your property from that property? There's no demand from it for it really, because they're just going to pick a new property, and it's just basically recurring cycle until basically those suburbs are entirely built out and the LVRs come down. So that's the next thing. They have very high LVRs. There's a thing called mortgage belt suburbs. So what that basically means is suburbs with a very high LVR. Now, during times of crisis, these are very badly affected. Now, the reason being is because these people are stretched to their limits and they generally do not have many funds to actually get through these times. So you'll often see a lot of houses for sale there. Now, furthermore to this, you also have very poor services and infrastructure. Now, I had a friend who used to live out in Western Sydney. Now, this is an estate, I'm not going to name it, but this was an estate that was fairly recently built, and there was about probably 4 fairly new suburbs around it too. Now, there was a Coles Express. So one Coles Express to service these 4 suburbs and probably more than 10,000 people. Like, what the fuck are you going to do with a Coles Express, seriously, to service 10,000 people? And the roads are just a disgrace there as well. It just not built for the purpose, very bad traffic in and out. I think it took about 2 hours to just get into the Sydney CBD every day. And it was just a joke. So, why the hell would you want to live there out of everywhere else? Now, to just give everyone an idea, this is an example of an area in Sydney. As you can see, this is in 2014. You can see it's fairly rural, a couple of houses there, a few new lots being subdivided. This is what it looks like will look like in 2021. Now, you tell me that you'd want to live in a suburb that's surrounded by ridiculous open land that's about to be subdivided again. You've got rocks in your head simply because what's going to happen is you're going to have future supply coming in, which then throws out exactly what I was talking about before, being that your actual demand to supply ratio is completely out. There's just too much supply. So that's a really key thing there. Now, well, if that doesn't explain it enough to you, I don't know what will, because that should be more than enough as to why you should not buy in these new estates. Now, on to the next section. So the next section here is actually why capital growth is significantly more important than cash flow. Now, don't get me wrong, both are definitely important. No doubt both are important. But the reason being is because you've got to remember, yield or cash flow, should I say, is a percentage of your asset value. Therefore, you actually want your asset value to increase over time, so to go up, because your yield is a representation of that. Now, over the course of time, what happens is the best assets generally have lower yield. Now, a good example to explain that is similar to stocks in somewhere like the New York Stock Exchange. So something like Berkshire Hathaway generally has next to no yield, but is very high growth. Now, who really cares if your yield when you bought it was, let's say, 4%, and in 20 years it yields 2%, right? However, the asset has increased 400% because you're getting 2% of 400% of your original purchase price, which is just going to be ridiculous. So think of it that way, easiest way to describe it. Now, I'm actually going to go into some actual examples just to explain this to people, because, a lot of people will try to go down the rhetoric of no, that's not true. And I'm going to figure this out on my own because I made a lot of growth since COVID, which is annoying because you could have thrown a map, literally a dart at the Australian map and basically made 30% in COVID, but it's not going to be the same in the future.
Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, and if you're looking to purchase a property in Australia's best performing suburbs, be sure to reach out via www.compoundinvest.com.au. The details are below. Thanks again, and welcome to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.